All right, guys, I got my next guest on here. Jody, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing all right, man. Well, so, what state are you coming out of?
I'm in Alberta, Canada, actually.
Oh, we got a Canadian in here.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Tell us some of the challenges that you've been going through.
Well, been separated for 9 years, divorced since 2020, and the legal struggle continues, and it's exacerbated by lawyers that make mistakes and overcomplicate things and allow us not to communicate. Unfortunately, that's all while my son suffers. But the hardest thing, it's heart wrenching. I look at my son and I see the defeat on his face, and he just wants time at the time and love of his dad, but he feels responsible for his mom's feelings. He's told things like, if he goes to a swimming pool with me, he's told he stinks from the chlorine, and go on a school trip. We were excited. I got picked to go on a school trip, and then all of a sudden, I had to see his face almost die, the excitement. Because I get a call and I have to tell him, hey, I can't go. The school called me, your mom called, and I said I can't go. And that's devastating. And no child should ever have to know the feeling of defeat just for wanting the love of their parent, Sorry. Whew.
You're okay, man.
They shouldn't feel the weight of being responsible because mom will be sad. That's no child needs that. And I hope the system and parents wake up and they see what their child really think, not just what they want to see the children are thinking. They might think they're doing as well as they can for their kid, but what they really need is both parents. Most times. I know there's exceptions to the rule, but we don't need the false accusations and we don't need the legal system complicating it. It's give us the benefit of the doubt and the kids will be better off. So
I'm with you, man. Really quick, I've talked to people from all over the world. People think this is an American problem. It's going like crazy. I would say the number 2 country that I hear from is Canada. Tell us what are you seeing up there in the family law system in Canada? It doesn't sound like it's much different than the States.
I've done lots of reading across the board and all this. It seems very similar. I mean, there's a little difference in maybe in no fault divorce and maybe the getting to divorce stage is easier itself. But really, when it comes right down to it, the agreement doesn't hold much weight when it comes to visitation and everything else. I have joint custody and I see my son 8 hours a week. It's really tough and been fighting now for. I tried to avoid the legal system to try to do the best I could for my ex and me, but in the end, 2 years and I'm still struggling just to see my son and just for him to have time with me.
How much money have you spent? If you could put like an estimate on a dollar figure, how much has it cost you so far?
Far too much, but I'm sure just my side of things, I'm sure I'm around 100 grand, if not more. So.
That is ridiculous, man. Oh my God. I tell you what, man, I got another guest lined up, so I'm going to have to cut this one a little bit short. But one thing I'm doing with everybody for Father's Day, and I want to make sure to do this with you. Anything that you want to say to your kids on Father's Day, man, it's your platform. Go ahead.
You're the light of my life, my bud. Love you.
All right. Jody, hey, man, happy Father's Day to you, and thank you so much for coming on here, brother.
Happy Father's Day to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Robert Glasgow. Robert, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can, man. How you doing?
Oh, doing great. I'm here in Newfoundland, Canada.
Oh, so we got 2 Canadians back to back.
Yeah, so I spent 7 years trying to see my children, and then I ended up getting them full time. I didn't do anything special. I just kept fighting, and then their mother had a mental breakdown and said she's going to throw the children, jump off a cliff with the children, and I ended up getting them. But they ended up in foster care for a short time because my son, I'll never forget it. I forgive her in my heart, but I found it hard to forgive this because he was looking under my car for bombs because his mother told him if you ever goes with daddy, you press the red button, he's going to blow you up. So they ended up in foster care because my little girl, she wasn't scared of me, but I guess at the time I didn't want to split them up either. So they both went to foster care for 9 months. And that was in 2013 to 2014, 9 months. I had pretty much unrestricted access for the most part, and I was able to show my son that, I wasn't this bad person I was pictured as. And I just want to say to the parents going through this, you don't know what your kids are going through, and I know it's hard to keep going sometimes. I took some breaks. I went to Cuba, and I went to Ecuador for a bit, and just took some time for myself because it was just overwhelming 7 years trying to deal with this craziness.
Yeah.
And my daughter brings me out for Mother's and Father's Day now because her mother didn't call her in about over a year. And the first words out of my ex-wife's mouth was, "Oh no, I'm going to lose child support, and I'm going to lose child tax benefit," or whatever it's called. I forget. So I get it every month. Well, my son's in the army now, so he's grown. But so it was just really hard, and I'm glad I kept going. My lawyer told me she couldn't believe I kept going because most parents would have just said, forget, this is crazy. This is just too much. But I just kept going and going.
So your ex had made the statement that she was going to get your kids and jump off a cliff with them?
Yeah.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong, your kids, she had programmed in their heads that if they was to go off with you, that she would have a bomb that would go off.
I would have a red button in my car, and I would press the red button and boom, blow them up.
So she was saying that you would blow them up, or that she would?
I would.
Wow, dude.
Yeah, so, it was really hard, obviously. I don't know. I'm probably not the strongest physically, but mentally I must be pretty good because I didn't go too off the deep end. I was lucky to get legal aid. I got laid off from a job, a pretty good paying job. We were repairing bank machines, and one of the young fellas stole a bunch of money, and we lost the contract. And I kind of purposely didn't work as much to make, because I knew that I was going to spend so much money, and I just got legal aid, and it was slow because things are pretty slow sometimes, especially with legal aid. But the lawyer I had was really good when push came to shove. When she went to court, we had 5 days court. Can you imagine with expert witnesses and A, B, C, and D over 5 days? Like what I would have had to pay for that? I'd say a lot of money just for those 5 days.
That is crazy, man. So you have custody of your kids now?
100%, yeah. Like my son is a bit bitter towards me because I met his mother. He said, "Why did you meet my mother? Like you're a pretty good person. Like why did you actually meet her?" He said, "I'd rather not be alive." But I said, "You're in the army now. I can't change what I did," because she seemed normal. And
right.
Myself and my son was watching the Ted Bundy tapes, and he said, "He seems like my mother." And I said, "Well, you're nearly 18, so I'll tell you, she got some things going on that he had." And so he noticed right off the bat that he was not a very empathetic person. And
dude, Robert, well, this is here comes another one of the severe cases like we hear in the States all the time. This definitely makes the top of the list, but here it is all these years later. You're still getting out there. You're telling your story. I'm just curious, why does this matter so much to you that you continue to go on and speak about this?
Well, I figure people should hear some good stories. A lot of people says I'm bitter for keep bringing it up, but I said I'm not bitter. I'm just trying to help other people. I lived in the UK, made really good money, but my all-time favorite job was making $850 a month in South Africa. I was setting up computers in really poor schools.
Oh man!
And believe me, I was making good money in London, but I was just as comfortable making $850 in South Africa because things were so cheap.
All right. Well, brother, I appreciate you so much for sharing that story with us. Right, real quick before I let you get out of here, anything? Obviously, you got your kids now, but is there anything that you'd like to say to them on Father's Day in case they was to see this?
Well, Dad loves you, and if my son, he'd probably never see this, but he's doing some training with the Army. I want to see him for Father's Day, but I know Christmas was so hard not seeing him, and like during the 7 years, and I had a Christmas tree. I just never put it up because I just didn't care about Christmas.
Oh man!
But like they're both doing pretty good. Like my daughter seems more put together than my son in some ways, and she's actually helped me a lot. Like she's like helped me a whole lot. She makes a grocery list. She's trying to get the like it's awesome because she's actually takes it on herself to find all the deals for the
Right.
groceries and stuff. So
That's awesome, man.
I've
Well,
been
brother,
I've been single 9 years and I'm fairly happy. I mean, I get a bit lonely, but I don't know. I just want to travel again, and I just want to be by myself, like not by myself, maybe my kids. But if I do travel, sometimes if I do go by myself, I just don't want no one. I just want to go myself and not have anyone else to worry about.
got you, man. Well, Robert, happy Father's Day to you, brother, and thank you so much for coming on here and sharing that story. It's definitely heavy, man.
All right. Well, thanks for what you do, and you have a great day, and happy Father's Day to you.
You too. Thanks, man. Everybody, I'd like to welcome our next guest on here, Mr. Jeffrey Watts. Jeffrey, how you doing?
I've been better, man. Honestly,
What
been
state
hard.
you coming out of, Jeff?
Wisconsin, man, home of cheese and beer, man.
Cheese and beer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard some cases up there, man. Tell us what's going on with you this Father's Day.
I'm in. Well, I have 2 kids, a son and a daughter, both born the same day, 6 years, 1 hour apart. And one is about to be 9, the other is about to be 3, and different mamas. And there's been a lot of withholding. I think there's probably been almost a full year of withholding between the two. Recently with my son for the last 4 or 5 months due to an ex parte because there was a verbal spat between me and the child's mother. And I made it clear we're in a castle doctrine state, so I make it clear who can come on my property and who can't come on my property. I understand my rights.
Good.
And I don't want her mama or her daddy, who were very aggressive with me 24 hours beforehand. They said they was going to come to my house and they were trying to stop my son from coming out. And it's not a grandparent state. So like, I made it very clear that if she came to my property, I would only ask once that she left, which I'm not even obligated to do. And that got used against me, and I didn't use the right wording. I was very heated. My own bad. I learned from that. Since then, I haven't seen my son outside of supervised visitation, which I have to pay $50 a pop at. It's hard, man. I've been around that boy his whole life. He looks just like me. And I just miss him. And I ain't seen him in a couple weeks. And I got a daughter whose mama, I ain't gonna say anything disparaging. They're both very intelligent women who are beautiful, and then I just wish they'd see the stats, the numbers that these babies need, both of us. Like they need that nuclear household. Like I would never try to take them from mom. Mom too. My daughter's mom is very difficult. Recently we used our Family Wizard app, right? And for example, the other day, my daughter fell at a playground and she tried to come at me with some bruises using words like injury and this and that, and then trying to have conversations of offbeat topics that we're not allowed to have and drag me into things because she's got a restraining order. And if I were to go in those kind of conversations, that could bite me in the ass, and then I go to jail for upwards to 9 months in Wisconsin for that nonsense. So I had to have the cops the other day remind her that she has to stay on her line. It's hard, man, because I feel like as a man here, I'm always having to step it up, and not to knock all women, but some of the women I have to deal with, I feel like, I gotta you take them as they come, and it doesn't.
I got you, man.
The playing field isn't fair.
I definitely got you.
I'm a
dude,
king playing against a queen,
Yeah. I got several people lined up that's going to come on. I'm not trying to rush by no means. I do got to ask a really quick question, though. I can't see this and turn my head to it just to get on a little bit of a happier note. So who is your favorite wrestler? I see the stuff in the background.
Dusty Rhodes, man.
Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
American Dream.
The American Dream, baby. Yeah, baby. Tell you what, baby. We love our children, baby. Ooh, Father's Day. Tell you what.
I love it, man. Jeffrey, really quick, man. I've been asking everybody this, and I want to make sure I give you the opportunity. I am sorry to hear about your situation, and it is all too common. I've actually heard of several cases right there in your backyard that are almost identical. If there was anything that you could say to your kids on Father's Day, if they was to see this, what would you want to tell them?
Not even God can remove me from where I'm going to be. Even if I leave this earth, I'm still with you. I love you. Ain't nothing going to stop it. And don't let anybody tell you can't do what you want and be what you want. I love you.
Awesome. Hey, Jeff, happy Father's Day, man. And I
You
hope
too,
it all
man.
starts turning around for you, brother.
Rock on, brother.
Thanks, man. All right, guys, I'm going to bring up our next guest, Mr. Blake. Can you hear me?
Hey, Eric. How's it going?
It's going all right, man. What state are you coming out of?
Indiana.
Indiana. We've had a couple on from Indiana so far. Tell us what you got going on this Father's Day, brother.
Well, I don't know if I've probably got quite the story that most are struggling with, but hoping maybe I can give some inspiration to those that might just be starting out in their battle.
Go ahead, brother.
Am I coming in all right?
Yeah, you got a little bit of a delay. But that's fine. Tell.
Okay. Well, I guess I don't know if is this something you touch on still? Is kind of the initial process of if you're faced with these kind of decisions and what to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess I just want to start out. My ex initiated, and I think it took me a long time to accept that, about 6 months actually, and I felt like I had to play catch up the whole time. As the mother, she didn't really have to prove much, with the courts seeing her as the primary parent. And I think, I moved out. Hear me? I lost my video.
I can still hear you.
Okay. Well, I'd moved in with my parents. They were, 5 minutes down the road. But when I got to the mediation table, I was playing catch up at that time. My attorney told me to, chip away at it. But then it took me almost 2 years. I changed lawyers. He immediately asked me who my guardian ad litem. I don't know if it's called that in every state, but it's a third party attorney that, can evaluate home life and give a recommendation. But that took almost 2 years. So I guess my advice is, stay in the home, and, even if you think you can save your marriage, don't do what I did, and, get the ball rolling first. And definitely take care of yourself. Anxiety and depression, I feel like, got the best of me going through that. You kind of felt like your world was crumbling, and I was very involved with my kids, coaching them in every sport they were in. And it just seemed like everything was being taken away from you. You don't realize how it's normal, but then it's not when you're faced with, your world being taken away from you. So.
No, man. That's got to be one of the hardest things that a father can go through. I mean, you got somebody, if you was married or maybe you wasn't, but you became a couple and you had kids together. So there was obviously a relationship there. Something happens to where you guys are breaking apart, but now you got these, innocent little babies that are in the middle of it. That has got to be one of the most hard and trying times a guy can go through. And at the same time, as he's going through this depression, he's also having to go to work. He's got no time to sit there and worry about his feelings. And there's so much that's going on. And then we put you inside a family court where all they do is increase that conflict. And that's the problem that I think we're seeing with a lot of these men. They just feel like they're not valued and nobody's listening to them. So, I appreciate you so much. Do you have a custody agreement with your kids now?
Yes. Yes, I did get granted 50-50. It helped a lot when the in-home evaluation, my oldest told her, I wish I could spend more time with my dad. And all I ever wanted once I accepted it was happening was 50-50. And that's where I feel like I was different than she, where I don't want them to not have her in their life. I think it's important for both parents to remain as involved as possible. And that to me is 50-50. I want them to feel as much at home when they're with her, when they're with me. So they grow up not feeling like they're just spending the night with, packing a backpack. And, I felt like she could care less if I lived under a bridge. That wasn't their home. And my goal was for them to have a home at both places.
How long did it take you to get that agreement? And like, if you had to guess, what's a dollar figure you think it took to be able to get that?
It's hard to say because that you have several court dates, and
Right.
she in the meantime, and that was another thing. She was able to move him because at the time she had more physical custody.
Right.
So I was also fighting for her relocation to move our children away from their immediate extended family. I wanted to stay where we were, but she wanted to move closer to her work. To me, that wasn't a good enough reason, to move them away from family. But I've probably have close to 30,000 with the whole divorce. You also have the finances in there. So I would say at least half of that was for custody.
It's a lot of money, man. And that's
Yeah.
money that could have went to your kids. It didn't
Exactly.
need to go to a lawyer. That money came from sacrificing your time with your kids so that you can take care of them. And it's just all too sad. Man, I hate to rush out of here, but really quick, before I let you go, telling everybody here on Father's Day, if there is anything that they would like to say to their kids in case their kids was to see this, just wanted to give you that opportunity, man, whatever you want to say.
I don't regret anything. I feel like I could write them a book, and I hope they're never in my situation. And it wouldn't have mattered if she moved them to China. I would have been on a plane right behind them.
There you go.
So
Blake, you're out of the system though, man, but you're still speaking up. You're still showing up, and that's what matters. We need to see more of that. So I just want to say I thank you so much, and happy Father's Day to you, brother.
you too, Eric. Thank you.
Thanks, man. All right, guys, going to bring on our next guest, John. John, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, man. What state you coming out of, brother?
Well, I'm coming out of Wisconsin.
We got a bunch of cheeseheads in here today.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe we got a lot of problems here.
Oh, dude,
I think it's everywhere, though.
Yeah, it is. But I've heard of some pretty extreme ones up there. They promised me some cheese curds last time I was up there. I never got any.
Oh,
Anyway.
you can get them. They're everywhere. You come up, we'll get you some. And I appreciate what you're doing, what all the guys are doing, and what the changes that you're trying to make, and having the forum for dads to express themselves and get help. I've been doing this since 2018. I think I don't like to talk about it a lot because I feel that I had it easier than a lot of other dads. I guess I've been kind of blessed that way, and the way my mind deals with things. But yeah, I've been falsely accused since 2018. I've got 3 kids. My son is going to be 17. My oldest daughter is going to be 14. My youngest is going to be 9. And I've been attacked and falsely accused. And because of those accusations, I lost my 2 oldest kids for a short period of time because my ex, had convinced them of things. In the meantime, while she's making things up about me, she decided that she wasn't going to work. She can live off of child support. Her husband was a multi-time drunk driver, would drive my kids around without a license. She'd smoke in the house by the kids, and I'd complain about these medical things, and it didn't matter. She knew what was right. She wanted to make every decision for myself, for my house, my family, my wife, and my other daughter. She took my kids for medical procedures that were against our religion and against what I believed was correct for medical, without really discussing with me. I overpaid tens of thousands of dollars in child support because the child support office had screwed up the calculations. And when I had my lawyer look into it, she said, "Oh, about 95% chance you're going to get this money back." Yeah, it didn't happen. They said she already spent it, so it was too bad, basically. I spent all my money on lawyers and courts, probably about $60,000. I had to sell my house to keep on paying for my lawyer. I eventually filed for bankruptcy and had to get rid of my lawyer. And lo and behold, after I had no money and I have no lawyer, courts kind of mysteriously stopped. There's nothing for them to go after anymore. I do have my kids 50-50. So, we fought that fight. I lost some decision making on a couple things, but overall, I don't want to say I'm happy, but I feel better than a lot of the guys are in situations where they haven't seen their kids at all. So I get to see them. I'm involved with them with religion and scouts and dance and things like that. So I've done pretty good with that. And then while we were doing this, my wife was going through breast cancer. So that was another stress on top of all of it, plus all the money issues. So, very stressed out, but I had my faith, I had my family, I had a group of people that I can rely on to keep me, straight, and my kids, knowing that if I didn't get my kids, how were they going to turn out? So that was, the main thing that kept on pushing me.
John, I appreciate you, sharing that so much, man. Just really quick, because I've had several people on here that have faced those allegations, and I'm really trying to drive home. I think one of the most dangerous things when it comes to this system right now is I know a lot of people have like a focal point of we got to get shared parenting. We got to get shared parenting. And I believe that we need it. But as long as false allegations are allowed and there is no consequences for that, that is one of the most dangerous things I have ever seen in my life, because once you go through those false allegations, your whole life changes. What
Right.
was that like for you once you found yourself going through those allegations?
Well, it was horrible because, you first get served with paperwork and you're reading it and you're like, none of this stuff happened. Like, what is this about? And then you start talking to your kids a little bit about it, and they have these false memories that she had put into them.
Right.
And she used to have this journal that she would write stuff down. So she would take something that happened, she'd talk to my kids and grill them over and over and over again, then take information that they gave her and then twist it. And she wouldn't twist it immediately. She would twist it down the road, and then getting them to believe that something happened. And none of it ever happened. So, and then she'd have police reports against me, against my wife. She tried to get my eldest son, who I didn't include in here because he's 28, fired from work. She came to my work, and I never talked bad about her for years and years and years. We're just different. We're different people. We got divorced for a reason, and it's hard to say anything good about her anymore. Just what she's cost my children. They now know that she lies and that she has issues, and my daughter's terrified of her. She's told me. I still believe that there should be this relationship between the parents together. Because I think that's another load is co-parenting. There's other ways to do it besides that. Right. You can't always get along. It's not going to be perfect. But you can't have one household having to dictate everything that happens with a completely different family. So it was difficult. And I feel like I have PTSD every time I get a message from her, because it's not over. It's just paused. I still have years left. It's just paused.
Just seeing that name pop up.
Oh yeah. 100%. 100%.
I get it. 100%, dude. Well, dude, John, thank you so much for reaching out. I got to get to my next guest.
Yeah, perfect.
The next guest can see me down there. Give me 1 second. I want to ask him one thing. You got 50-50 custody. So yep. I'm guessing that you proved to the courts that those allegations were false.
Yes.
What consequences was there for your ex?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Not one. Nothing. And the guardian ad litem took her side on everything too, because I was rigid. And I stood up for myself, and it was like, well, you're just being inflexible, and so I'm going to decide with her. It was crazy. Don't ever get a guardian ad litem. Don't get a lawyer. I mean, that's my advice to fathers, and stick with it.
They're trash.
Yep.
They really are, man.
We got to change the laws.
I know you're getting to see your kids and everything, but if there's a chance they was to see this, what would you like to say to them?
Again, I love you guys, and all the pain was worth it because I have you. Absolutely. And I'll continue to do it until I die.
John, thank you so much for being here, man, and happy Father's Day to you.
Yep, you too. Thank you.
All right, going to bring on the next guest. Matt, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can. Matt, what state are you coming out of?
I'm just south of Wisconsin. I'm in Iowa.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm going to Wisconsin for Father's Day weekend, so.
I got you, man. Hey, tell us what you've been going through this Father's Day.
Well, so I am fortunate. I have custody. I have primary custody of my kids. I have 3 daughters, 13 to 1. The 1-year-old with my current wife. So dealing with my ex, I've had a pretty rough road. We got divorced. We weren't right. The marriage stuff, whatever, fell apart. The only thing I ever asked for, my lawyer said, you can fight about 2 things. You can fight about possessions, or you can go for your kids. And I said, I don't care about the kitchen table. I want to see the kids half time. At first, while we were waiting to get to trial, everything was fine. We were going back and forth 50-50 pretty much. And then when we got to a courtroom and they start talking child support and they start talking that, she saw dollar signs and went wild. She also was doing some shady stuff on the side, drunk driving with them, stuff like that. She'd leave them alone. They were 4 and 5 at the time. I would call for welfare checks from the police. The police would show up. She would have a neighbor come down and say, "Oh no, I was watching him, and she just ran to the store." Well, I was able to prove she was in Nebraska or wherever she was at. So getting back to like where we were getting along, we were until I disagreed with her. And then it was, well, you get your kids every other weekend, like every other dad out there, which is a sad but very true assertion that she made, that that's what happens to most fathers. We're just weekend warriors. Dissatisfied with that, I took it to court. I have been to trial more times than I can count. She's been found in contempt. The last one made the biggest one made international news. It was the #2 news story in the world for 2 days. Prior to the Jason Aldean shooting, she left the country, left him home alone, traveled to Germany, had planned to be there for 10 days. She has 2 other kids with a previous guy, and he called me and said, "Do you know where the kids are at?" And I said, "Well, they're supposed to be with Aaron's care." And she goes, "No, he just called me. She's not there." So we rolled cops, we rolled DHS. I hired a private investigator to verify, because I'd been ripped on by judges for using the cops as a harassment tool. I'm a police officer myself, so I know the law here in Iowa. So DHS removed the kids. They did not initiate a child in need of assistance. And I requested that because I wanted to see her charged criminally and not see the jurisdictional grievance that they have between district and juvenile courts.
Right.
So ultimately they were placed back with me. She had a no contact order for a year. And I remain to have custody of them. Since then, it has just been a pain through contempt filings that she's false allegations. I've been accused of sexual abuse. I had to defeat that. I have been to contempt court more times than I can count. Just this last year, I think currently right now it sits at 5 confirmed abuse reports against her, for physical abuse to what's the word I'm looking for? To lack of critical care, to emotional abuse and mental abuse with a diagnosed injury on that. And the state keeps giving her a way back in. And every time the state gives her a way back in, that's another battle that I have to cross, and she becomes that much more angrier to deal with. So just as this last year, New Year's, there was another abuse report that got turned into a child in need of assistance case for juvenile court. And the kids are now in this thing. Basically, she abused them again during the New Year's holiday. My 13-year-old had the smarts and wits about her to record it on her iPhone. It's horrible, god awful. She called them everything under the sun that I'm not going to repeat. They played that in court. That's the first time I've ever seen a judge look at her and actually give her a lecture. But she is so narcissistic in her ways that now she's even arguing with social workers. She's arguing with the judge. She's threatening to sue everybody, and she's threatened to sue the kids at school. The police have been called to the school to remove her from the premise. She has a no trespass warning from my house because she's blocked my driveway, and yet still has eluded arrest on multiple things that she should have been charged with. Upwards in this fight, I probably got $100,000, probably just north of $100,000 over the course of the past 6 years. I've spent $50,000 of that just this year alone on this China case. So while I have the kids, and I'm grateful for that, and they are too, currently she has no physical custody without supervision. She can't talk to him on the phone without supervision, but it's been a battle, man. So we need platforms like Dad Talk, Father's Rights Movement. I'm involved with them. I go down to my state legislature. I lobby for equal and shared parenting laws. I work with a couple attorneys who donate their time just to fight for fathers' rights on the legislature side. And so, yeah, that's basically why I wanted to talk to you and what I wanted to say today.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And really quick, you said she had a child with somebody else and he had contacted you asking something about his kids. Well, what was that contact like with him? It sounds like you guys actually kind of worked together on this.
Yeah, so initially he was accused of rape is what the deal is when I met her,
Okay.
he raped me and I had kids. And I'm thinking, wow, what an a-hole, who would rape somebody. Took her side initially, but then the story just didn't quite line up. What it
Mm.
came down to is she was 17 years old when she got pregnant, and she didn't want to know how to tell her folks. So, hey, rape's a good option, because then I'm victimizing myself instead
Mm.
of assuming responsibility. So yes, we kind of, once I kind of got the niche of how she was and what it was working with her, we did kind of combine forces, not for not to like take her name down or say bad things about her or anything like
Right.
that, but to coordinate efforts to say, hey, if it's not just me saying it and he's dealt with the same thing, right? The more people that are saying what the actual behavior's like in a courtroom, you can gain credibility with judges, because I spent years without any, I'd go in there with facts. I testified like a cop. Here's my things. There's no conjecture. There's no hearsay. These are the facts. And that is what I was trying to just get across some credibility in court. So we coordinated our efforts for that.
That's awesome. But I mean, there we go. There's the pattern. She accuses him of this. Years later, here you become the new person. Now you're going through the same thing.
Yes.
Guys, you got to watch out for these red flags. So I'm glad to hear that you got past that, man. Really quick before I let you out of here, I want one more thing. What was that like being in law enforcement and going through those type of allegations? It's bad for anybody. I'm sure that had to be especially hard on you.
It was. So every time there was a false allegation, I had to go notify my boss, of course, because I have a duty to do that. So anytime I'm accused of a crime, I'd have to go in and tell this embarrassing story to my administration and say, hey, I'm being accused of, sexually assaulting a kid. And they would, whether they wanted to place me on administrative leave while that investigation's going on, but it's lost wages, I knew the reports weren't going to go back because what she was claiming, the physical evidence, just didn't exist.
Right.
And it didn't exist. And they called me back and said, yeah, you're not being charged. But it is damaging to my career, just having that, having to deal with colleagues that were investigating me. It was embarrassing as a cop on the street when I had Nancy Grace, Inside Edition, Dr. Phil trying to get me to come onto their shows. And I did a few interviews because they were paying me, and that was a way for me to offset the cost of my attorney. So did that. I said no to Dr. Phil just because I don't want to be on TV, but and I didn't think that was in the best interest of my kid.
Good.
So it's been frustrating with dealing with other law enforcement officers because in Iowa, our domestic abuse laws are very written towards, it says primary aggressor, but typically if it's they're written for women, right?
Violence Against Women's Act.
So the stuff that she did, the stuff she has done, if it were you or I would still be waiting 8 years for parole. But because she's a woman, I feel like they went a little softer and they didn't, they kind of got, it's sexist to look through the lens like that, but it's true. And so I got frustrated with colleagues too, when I'm like, the law. Why is she not in handcuffs right now? She should be serving a 25-year sentence on a C felony right now. Why did she get off with a misdemeanor? Why is she getting a promise to appear on things? Why are we not going after her and holding her accountable? Because I know if the shoe were on the other foot, I'd be broke in jail and done. I wouldn't have any rights.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, though, it did connect me through, if you're familiar with Dr. Park Dietz, he was the psychologist and the criminal. He did the criminal profile on Jeffrey Dahmer and I think John Wayne Gracie.
Okay.
And I got to connect through to him. And basically from a communication standpoint, I said, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. And I showed him some of the stuff, the filings and everything. And I said, is there a way that I can communicate with this person so that way kind of not to aggravate her condition or, kind of de-escalate things? Is there certain words or things, I can work around for triggers? And he was like, he goes, I'm not her patient. He goes, the things that you said described, the things that I've seen, he goes, I'm fairly confident that you're dealing with somebody with a narcissistic personality disorder. You're dealing with somebody with a borderline personality disorder. And when you have those two, the medical terminology is psychopathy. And he goes, there is absolutely nothing you can do. There is to change this person's mind. It's like kind of dealing with a schizophrenic. But there's no medication we can prescribe. He goes, is she locked up? And I said, no, not currently. And he goes, have you separated her from her victims? And I said, as of right now, yes. But, how long that lasts, I have no idea. And he was like, well, those are the two things. And he goes, and if you can't keep her separate from her victims, that she has this pattern of abusing them, he goes, you need to start changing who you vote for. So that's another message is, guys, you got to get out and lobby for yourself, because nobody else is going to talk up if you don't.
That's right.
They don't care, because they see dollar signs. What are you worth? They size you up, and they intend to drain you.
Matt, I got to get on to the next
Yeah,
guest.
I understand,
But
buddy.
before I do that, really quick, I've been giving everybody the opportunity in case their kids wants to see this. I know you've got custody that you was talking about. What's something you'd like to say to your kids on Father's Day?
I'd say, girls, you know, I love you. You're the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm going to continue to show up for you and continue to guide you through this life. Yeah.
There we go. Matt, hey, man, thank you so much. And happy Father's Day to you.
Happy Father's Day to you too.
Thanks, man.
All right.
All right, guys, I'm going to bring my next guest on, Mr. Duke. Duke, what state are you coming out of?
I'm from California.
California, man. Tell us about some of the challenges you went through with the system.
Oh, it sucks being a dad because I mean, take it back. It doesn't suck being a dad.
No, I got you.
With the whole system is when things happen, it's automatically it goes to the mother, and it's just not fair. I've seen plenty of dads, you know, not being able to see their kids or being called weekend dads, you know, and who wants to be a weekend dad? No one, you know. And
right.
in my case, I've had the issues with infidelity in my marriage, and that just brought me down as a father and a husband at the time. I mean, what is a man supposed to do? You don't feel good enough. You don't feel adequate enough. You feel like lost, and it took me a long time to climb out of that depression and be there present for my kids.
How long ago was it, Duke, that you ended up going through that?
About 6 months ago.
It's a process, brother. My marriage, I found out about 5 different guys. And I got custody out of my 2 kids out of that one. And I tell you, man, it took a very long time. It does. It makes you feel like you're not good enough, that something was your fault. You're constantly questioning things, replaying things in your head. One thing I can tell you, brother, is it wasn't you. It wasn't you. And you'll find that out. And sometimes it doesn't make sense when we're going through it. But give it a little bit of time, and I believe it will. And that's, you know, explain to people, you know, some of the emotions that you go through when you find out that's happening in your marriage.
Oh, I was shocked, and then it took me a while for it to sink in. But I felt I was depressed. I felt sadness, and I felt heartbreak. I wasn't good enough, and I was a failure to my family for some reason. I put it all on me.
Yep, that's what we do.
I felt like anxiety, and it just replayed over and over in my head. And then I started putting pieces together, like, oh, you know, and I just followed the trail, and I went down this rabbit hole, and I stayed there for a long time.
Yeah, dude. Don't stay there too long. That's normal.
Yeah.
It's definitely normal, man. But is she still with the guy? No. Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, that's always another thorn in the side, knowing that your kids are going around somebody that would do this. But man, it seems like you're starting to pull your way out of this, man. What's going on currently?
Currently, I'm present for my kids. I see them. I get to see them every day when I get off work. Now it's just not, you know, a weekend thing. I see them as much as I'm not working, and we'll go on a vacation. So it's wonderful. I just felt bad taking that time away from them.
Right. No, I definitely understand. So are you divorced at this point in time?
No,
it's still going through.
Yeah.
I got you, man. So are you currently in the family courts?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Gotcha, man. Do you think it's something that you can get an agreement made out without having to get the attorneys involved?
Probably not.
No.
And it just sucks because it's not like the man's fault, you know, and something happens like this, but it still always goes to like the mother, no matter if it's not like, it's not my fault. What did I do? But I'm still being punished.
I can understand that one. You know, infidelity used to be against the law. It's still supposed to be against the law, that it holds absolutely no weight inside of the courts, that it seems like. And that's wrong. You know, you got somebody that's going and doing this behind your back. There's lots of things that could happen. There's permanent things that can happen, health consequences.
Yes, all of it. And it's no one values, I don't think, like marriage anymore. I don't believe anybody has these values on it. It's like you're married, you make these vows, your sickness and health is supposed to be there, but then when times get hard, oh, you know what? I don't love you anymore. I'm gonna go love this person, and they just leave you high and dry. And it's just,
I believe Hollywood has a lot to do with that. You know, it shows the sunshine, the rainbows, the fireworks, everything's supposed to be great. And that's not what marriage is, man. It's refusing to give up on somebody. It's going to be the hard times where you don't even want to look at each other, but you refuse to give up. And, you know, I'm sorry that first time didn't work for you, man, but that doesn't mean that it's not later, you know. Like I said, just get a little bit of time away from that. And I'm telling you, it definitely gets better, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, brother. If there's anything that you would like to say to your kids on Father's Day, what would it be?
Oh, that they are the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I love them with all my heart. And I'll never leave them. Ever.
You said you're going on a trip.
Yes, we're leaving Sunday morning.
Are they excited?
Very, very.
How old are they again?
10, 8, and 12.
10, 8, and 12. Awesome, man. But brother, hang on in there. And I appreciate you so much for coming on and talking about that. I don't think that gets talked about enough. You know, as men, we try to mask our emotions, but that was probably the hardest thing I ever went through.
Yeah, it is the hardest thing I've went through.
I'm not going to lie to you. It was one of the hardest things. And then, you know, you're used to being in that house, knowing that you had a spouse, somebody to talk to at the end of the night, your kids is there. And then when they're not, that's when it hits. And so all of those feelings, they're normal, man, but they will definitely go away. So I appreciate you for watching the show. And I hope you have a happy Father's Day, man.
Thank you for having me. And thanks for all the posts you do. You got me through a lot of days.
Absolutely, brother. Take care, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, guys, at this time, I got my next guest on here, Cody. Cody, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. All the way from Texas. So I know that you spent some time here lately, right?
I know a little bit about it. Dude, I'm probably at Texas more than anywhere else. I've probably been there 10 or 12 times this year already.
Yeah.
And the stories coming out of Texas is just hard to believe. I don't know what's going on in the state of Texas, but it is corrupt. It's one of the most corrupt family courts I've ever seen. And seeing that you're on Dad Talk today, I'm pretty sure you've had an experience with it.
A huge one. Yes, sir. When you talk about corruption, mine started, daughter was born in 2013, unfortunately divorced and shortly after that. But in 2019 is when the modification was filed. And in 2020, January 2020 was when it started. They used licensed professional counselors to violate the family code that didn't do any custody evaluations. They were just hired hitmen. And they decided that I should be taken away from my child. I was reduced from expanded standard without any actual factual proof or anybody following a code, Texas administration code, things of that nature, to 2 Saturdays for only 8 hours unsupervised. A year later, they falsified more information to the judge, and he completely wiped me away from access with my daughter. I couldn't see her for over 300 days. It wasn't until a child custody evaluator that was brought into the case that actually shedded light on the fact that these counselors violated their codes, violated their ethics, and that there was absolutely no fear, danger, or harm to the child. And I was able to get back into a normal schedule. And then we went through jury trial in 2022, and the judge, after the jury unanimously appointed joint managing conservatorship, the judge actually revoked everything. I'm only allowed to see my daughter by camera. I can only do FaceTime with her. That's it, unless the mother allows me time. and she will not respond to any requests. I didn't get to see her on her birthday or talk to her on May 27th, and I will not get to see her this weekend for Father's Day. This will be 3 out of the last 4 years that I have not seen her on her Father's Day or her birthday. She's now 10.
Cody, let me ask you again. I followed it pretty good, but besides that one point, now what was it that they did to you to put you up on that supervised visitation? What happened there?
So the licensed professional counselors that were independently hired by the mother, they testified as experts and fact witnesses to things that they didn't do, which is one is a child custody evaluation. It violates several things. It violates Texas Family Code 104.008, which is evidence by an expert. It also violates Texas Family Code 107, subchapter D, which deals with child custody evaluations, which means that an expert can't give their recommendation on any possession, access, or time with the child. And in an affidavit, that's exactly what she did, was give a recommendation and the court just upheld it. They also found that under Texas Administrative Code 22, which is under 681.53, which paragraph G and Family Code 107 mimic. You cannot give recommendations. That's what they're actually governed. Their laws that they have to follow per their license in the state of Texas. And they violated that. And unfortunately, Behavioral Health Executive Council in the state of Texas, they're not even upholding the complaint that I filed. So this is a big deal when you're talking about people that are going out or parents that are going out to get mental health professionals and they're not following the family code. They're not following the administrative code. And ultimately, they're committing criminal acts by doing this.
Absolutely, man. And I think only a father that's been through this is really going to be able to know how deep this sinks in when I ask you this question. But, Cody, what is it like for you as a father, loving father, wanting to see your child, to have to see your child through a camera and through pictures?
It's extremely heart deflating, knowing that I can't watch her grow up and I definitely can't be a part of it. I can't influence her in any positive or even a negative way. I can't make mistakes with her. I can't teach her life. I can't take her fishing. These are some of the things that we love to do when we go. That was her first trout she's ever caught in her life. And we can't experience that. I can't go to recitals. I can't get her excited about sports. I was a huge athlete in high school and was fortunate enough to play college and professional baseball. And I can't teach that. I can't bring that love to her. But the biggest thing that hurts is I can't tell her I love her in person. I can't hold her. I can't hug her. I can't watch her run down to me. I can't experience life with her. And it rips your heart out, man, because the one thing I love is kids, but there's nothing in this world that I love more than that is my own. And I can't be a part of that. And to watch a court system and people just do what they've done to thousands of parents, but mainly fathers, and get away with it without any consequences, it's gut-wrenching. And the last thing I'll leave you with, Eric, I know you're time sensitive, but I love my daughter more than anything in this world, and I'll never stop fighting for her. Unfortunately, if the court system remains the way that it is, I testified for over 25 bills this session. I've had a couple of them that I was actually be able to sponsor and actually go into and testify and get passed through because of my personal experience. But if they don't change, you're going to find that there's a lot of kids that grow up to be broken adults. And I don't want my daughter to ever have to experience that, but I don't want anybody else's too. But I love my daughter with all my heart. I miss her, and I never want to spend another Father's Day, birthday, or life without her. This is very hard at this time.
I can imagine, man. I got a couple. I do got another guest that I got to bring on really quick, but I got a few quick questions for you. What city? Where are you coming out of in Texas?
I actually live in Groves, Texas. It's south of Beaumont in southeast Texas, where Lake Charles and Texas kind of meet right there in Louisiana and Texas. And It's in Jefferson County. It's one of the most corrupt counties there are around here. They just follow attorneys' leads. They don't listen to facts or evidence, and they just flip the codes to make it work for them.
If you had to put an estimate on a dollar figure, how much you've spent so far, what would it be?
So I I've jumped into the pro se world at a very wrong time, but I had to. I've probably spent over $150,000 of my own money between transcripts, between evidence, subpoenas, open records requests, and then attorneys themselves, along with having to go and just spend time away from my job, the hours lost at my job. And then I would do any of that and lose it all to have time with her. But I'm not getting time with her. I'm losing all that and spending it on top. And then they have assessed the 6-figure to me on attorney's fees. Even after the court child custody evaluator said that there's no danger. Y'all need to be a part of this man. This man, y'all are playing with fire, is what he said. These people lied. They just wanted to double down. They think that if you can financially burden somebody to the point of a grave, they'll stop. And that may be true in some, and that's true for a lot, but it's not going to stop me fighting for her, Eric.
I got you, man. Hey, dude, thank you for continuing to speak up. Do not give up one bit whatsoever. I got to get on to my next guest really quick before I do. I'm giving everybody the opportunity before we get out of here. If there's anything you'd like to say to your daughter on Father's Day, what would it be?
Staten, I love you more than anything in this world. Daddy's never going to leave you. I've always been here. I will always be here. I know that you're healthy. I know that you're happy for the best of the world that we can see right now. But this Father's Day would have been special with you, and it will always be. So I love you, buddy. Have a good day.
All right, man. Thank you so much, Cody. Happy Father's Day to you, brother.
Thank you, Eric, and Father's Day to you too.
Thank you, man. All right, going to bring on our next guest. Derek, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can, man. Derek, tell us, what state are you coming out of?
I'm out of Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. We're getting a lot of Wisconsinites today, man. What's going on in Wisconsin? I'm sure it sounds like you probably have your own story up there.
Oh, I definitely do for sure. I've got my own story, and I've been trying to work with some of the other fathers that are in this state as well to try to give fathers equal access to their children, as it's very much so a mother state that gives mothers rights to their children, but it doesn't quite give fathers the same rights to their children. So it's something that I'm working on fighting, and I will probably be addressing further. But in general, I've been denied access to my daughter since before her birth, even including like the prenatal appointments and just games and manipulations that are being played, where it's like, hey, I'll invite you to these ultrasounds, and then I ask when and where they are, and then she's like, oh, I never wanted you to be there in the first place. And then fast forward to today, my daughter was born back in 2021. I got to see her for the first 2 weeks of her life, and then denied access for the next 10 months entirely, which was probably the roughest time of my life, just trying to fight and gain access. And I'm sure, as you know, where you don't really have rights or access until a judge gives you those rights. So I've been fighting for over 3 years, just trying to gain rights and access and some time with my daughter. When the judge finally gave me time, he only gave me a little bit of time. So it's a step in the right direction, but a lot still needs to happen. And they claim that Wisconsin is an equal rights state, that both are given equal time, but as I've experienced, that's not quite the case.
No. No. Were you unmarried?
Yeah, I was unmarried, and I certainly have no plans on marrying this person, especially with these ongoing issues that probably won't ever end in the near future. And I've kind of been denied all holidays as well. The court did give me one holiday for they gave me Christmas of 2021. They only gave me 4 hours. So it's been interesting. There's a lot of statutory violations as well that haven't been addressed as of yet. So things like providing my daughter's social security number has been denied. Having health insurance information, and my insurance won't allow me to cover my daughter because I don't have enough time with my daughter. So it's an ongoing issue with whatever healthcare. That's its own beast on its own. But it's just a lot of issues that are going on, Even I own a business as well, and even that's being used against me. So just owning a business,
Yep.
or if I have employees to work for me, as opposed to me being at the business, even having employees work for me or do the work that I would do, that is being used against me because I could potentially make more money. And if I made more money, they could take more from me. So it's interesting the way it's all going here, and it's it definitely brings into my mind how this isn't a discrimination or human rights or civil rights issue, and that's something I'm starting to look into a little bit more, because if you're denying rights for one parent, that's certainly not equality at all, and especially as we're getting into rights for different people, we're just kind of falling back on some of those other equality rights, and it seems odd that one father, one gender, or one sex is being denied access to their children at birth until a judge puts it in place. But that's what our Wisconsin legislature is doing right now.
Dude,
I
one
know
of, one of the worst cases that I've seen came out of Wisconsin, where a guy's ex had made false allegations against him for years. He proved they were false. He was going to get custody back. She hired a hitman to kill him, and the hitman ended up being an undercover cop. Yeah, she only got 3 years in jail. That's it. And they was going to let her out. And that was my one trip to Wisconsin, was to rally. I went up to the Capitol, and we went to the media and stuff. It was like, how in the world are you allowing this lady that was caught red-handed trying to kill his father to get out? Because we know good and well, had that been the father that did that to her, we wouldn't even be talking about this.
No, it would just be done.
And I mean, that's just the double standards that they got. And I don't know how they've been able to get away with it this long, but they have. And it's 100% about money. I mean, you even talk about what's going on with your business, every little dime that they think is not coming to them. That's wrong. Now, how long did you say you've been going through this now? How old is your daughter?
My daughter's a little bit over 2 years.
Okay.
I'd say, like, if you include like the pregnancy as well, I would say over 3 years is probably how long I've been having to fight through this. And this is certainly not a battle I would ever say I would plan of ever being in, but it's one that I've kind of been thrown into. And even more than my business, I care more about my daughter than even my business. So if I have to lose my business, that'll happen. And I work in the cannabis industry as well.
Right.
So you got the legalization rights, but I would say father's rights definitely takes precedence over even legalization of cannabis. So it's something that's definitely taken my life by storm, and I would love to see my daughter more than anything. And my family's been manipulated or attempted to be manipulated as well. So like my father was allowed access to my daughter while I was being denied for some reason. But then anybody who wouldn't agree with my ex or be manipulated by my ex is being denied access. So like my mother is being denied access, or my daughter's grandmother.
The whole family.
Grandparents,
That's how
aunts,
it goes.
uncles, everybody that can't be twisted or manipulated by my ex is all part of this at this point.
I get it, man. Derek, I got the next guest lined up that I'm going to have to get to. But really, I mean, if you had a guess, what dollar figure have you spent so far fighting this?
I would say I kind of lost count after 20,000. So I would say it's at least over 40 at this point, but I don't exactly know. I just keep on pumping into it, and it's growing. I can tell you that, but the exact dollar amount, I don't know. It's upwards of 40,000, and it's still not even over with. So it's going to be growing, and if I look into any of those human rights or civil rights issues, I'm sure that'll only grow even more, or even federal rights issues. So it's expensive, and they tend to reward the abuser or the one who's committing all these heinous crimes with more money. So it's interesting.
I got you, brother. I'm going to get to the next guest really quick before I do, man. If there's anything you'd like to say to your daughter here on Father's Day, what would it be?
That dad loves you. And I'm going to continue to fight for you and fight for time with you. And I hope to see you soon. And I love you. And I've got a little bear, or it's technically a lion, but we call it a bear. And our family would love to see her on Father's Day. So we'll hope to see you soon. Love you, babe.
All right, Derek. Happy Father's Day, brother. Thank you for coming on, man.
Thank you.
All right, gonna bring on our next guest. Tyler, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine, Eric.
Hey, Tyler, tell me, what state are you coming out of, brother?
I am actually from Iowa, broadcasting from Casey's. Just got off work, and I was fixing to get on here before I went home to my family.
That's all good, man. So you're here on Dad Talk today, so I'm sure you've had your challenges with the system as well. Tell us what you've been going through, man.
Actually, I became a dad at a very young age of 20. I know some may not see that as young, but I kind of do, because I wasn't ready to be a dad. However, I have 3 different baby mamas. One happens to be my wife, and God bless her soul for putting up with me all this time. But it's been a struggle because of the fact that, like, my kids are on different stages. Me and my wife just had our new baby daughter, actually about a month and a half ago. And so I'm officially a girl dad. But before that, I went through a 2.5-year custody battle for my 5-year-old. I know we talk a lot on here, and I know because I watch your show all the time, Eric. So I know how you feel about DSS or DHS or however you put them, whatever state you're from. But my 5-year-old ended up throwing a temper tantrum, and he got kind of hurt really bad. And the next day, I got pulled from work because my girlfriend at the time, his mom, had said that DHS wanted to talk to us because she took him to the doctor. And of course, we know that doctors are mandatory reporters. And so I wasn't there to give my side of the story of what I think might have happened. And because of the fact that we didn't know for sure what had happened, we got involved with DHS. Me and her ended up splitting up because of the fact of, even though, one would think that being with me for almost 3 years, she would have believed me. But DHS got in her head. And next thing you know, for a couple of months, she was like, no, Tyler wouldn't do this. Tyler wouldn't do this. Next thing you know, our investigator for DHS investigator ended up freaking getting in her head. And, like, mind you, when we went to meet with this guy, literally, I didn't say one word to him. Right? We walk into the room, and literally before I even say one word, he points at me and says, "You beat up your son." And I'm like, "Nice to meet you. Can I get a name first?" Like, it was ridiculous. He had me in tears because the fact of, I know what DHS does. DHS ended up, screwing around with my family my entire life. And it took 2.5 years just to, get something going. It took, I ended up, when I went to trial for the DHS, because there was a DHS trial, and, well, it really wasn't much of a trial, because we ended up, me and my lawyer said, we might as well just fight this in family court, because we weren't getting anywhere with DHS. Mind you, I did everything they requested of me. I had all my ducks in a row, right? And even, like, they had me, like, psychologically evaluated, and even through all that, right, I still did not get to see my son, to the point where I had a no contact order put on me and my son. And it took me going into the family courts, wasting thousands of dollars just to be able to see him. And it was horrible. Like, you can even ask my wife, like, I was in tears a lot of the time, and it was horrible until finally, it came closer to trial. And I'm like, you know what? I've got to end this now, because this is just getting way too out of hand. And to the point where I went to his mom and I'm like, look, we need to settle this here and now. We can either settle this like grown-ups instead of acting like children, or we can waste thousands of dollars, which neither of you or I have, at trial. And it took a lot of convincing to the point where she finally agreed to mediate. And, you know, when we mediated, I was getting every other weekend to now he's with me on pretty much a regular basis. But it took a lot of, you know, fighting and fighting and fighting just to get to the point where I am now. And luckily I'm at a point, unfortunately, I know that a lot of guys aren't, but I mean, I'm blessed to say that I actually get along with all my baby mamas now. But it's a struggle because I've been pretty much painted as the bad guy for a lot of the shit that DHS has done. And I mean, I know who I am. The people around me know who I am. And yet it hurt feeling like the bad guy. I'm like, I'm just trying to do what I can for my kids. Like, I'm busting my ass every day at work. Like, I'm even part of 2 parenting organizations now. One is YPN, which I got involved with back in, I want to say 2017-ish. And I'm also part of an organization known as Save the Children. And we're actually going to DC next month to meet with some lawmakers and kind of get me some training in. But aside from that, like, it took a lot to get to where I am. And it's been a downright struggle. And I feel for all the guys that have had to go through this. And it's the main reason why I actually just happened upon your show one day, Eric. And I was like, you know what? This guy actually knows what's up. This guy knows what's up. And so, I mean, unfortunately, I can't watch your show all the time because of my work hours. But trust me, every time that I get, like, I was kind of sad when you went away for a few weeks. And I'm like, you know what? He needs to take some time for him. But I really appreciate what you do, Eric. It means a lot to me.
That I appreciate that, man. I mean, just those words of encouragement. It's hard, you know. These stories are nonstop, and you know, when you consume it all the time, you start to see the worst parts of the world because it feels like we're throwing rocks at people that's got machine guns. These courts are in, you know, CPS, DHS. They're so big that it.
Oh yeah.
You know, it gets exhausting. It really does. But I got to get on to my next guest, man. Really quick. I mean, if you had a roundabout figure of what you spent fighting against that with DHS or the family courts, what would your dollar amount be?
If I don't know the exact amount, Eric, but if I had to ballpark it, I'd say somewhere around $6-7 grand easily. Okay. And that's just an estimate. I have no idea what exact dollar amount. Like, technically I still owe my last lawyer and trying to find a way to pay him. Like, I have no idea how I'm coming up with the money, but I'm going to try to do something. But I mean, I'm kind of like you. Like, I don't like lawyers and cops all that much, but I mean, sometimes they're a necessary evil, you know?
Absolutely, brother. Really quick before I let you out of here, if there's anything that you could say to your kids, if they was to see this later on, what would it be?
I definitely say that I know that daddy's made some mistakes and your mommies have made mistakes, but in all, I mean, we all love you, and you know, I can't wait to be able to see you guys grow up. And you know, I'm blessed to have my kids in my life because they've made me a better person. And especially having my daughter a month and a half ago, like, I love this little girl to death. Like, she's grown on me quite quickly. So I love all my kids to death and beyond.
Awesome, brother. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for coming on, buddy, and happy Father's Day to you.
Happy Father's Day to you, Eric. Please keep up the good work. The fathers out there need you.
Thank you, man. Thank you, sir. All right, guys. At this point in time, I'm going to welcome somebody that is notorious. He's one of the most notorious fathers that we're going to have on today. He's been waiting patiently in the back room. How do you like that intro, Caleb?
Hello, Mr. Carroll. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. So,
but people, I forgot I had my name up there as the Notorious Dad. I meant to change it. I was messing around on my own podcast and I forgot to change it. So
no, that's okay, man. So, you know, you got to hear a few guests while I was waiting to pull you up. And what was some of your thoughts going through your head as you're hearing these stories that you're all too familiar with?
You took the words right out of my mouth. I am all too familiar with it. It is beyond sad to me. I remember being in those shoes. I'm not going to go through all of my stuff's all on my channel. I'm not going to bore everybody with what I've gone through. For me, fortunately for me, my kids are all grown now. My kids are now in June 18, 20, 22, and Parker's 24. So they're all grown. It hurts watching those stories. I remember being there when my kid, we were divorced in 07. My kids were 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. When the Parker video went crazy, Parker's obviously 14, and then 12, 10, and 8. And I remember not ever seeing any type of what you were doing. And that would just to get a little bit of a relief to talk to somebody that's been through it and say, and look and see, wow, that guy has gone through it too. And that one, and that one, and that one, that one, that one. And to say that, I don't know if I've ever brought this up for you, and I may haven't. I would be remiss if I did not mention this man's name. Because of what happened with the Parker movie, it was 2013. Again, either it wasn't out there or I wasn't looking. I don't know which, but I don't remember ever seeing someone like Dad Talk, or I don't remember that it was specifically focused on the destructive family courts via the Title 4D of the Social Security Act. But there's one man that I would be remiss. Keep in mind, my video went viral 10 years ago, the Parker movie. This man, Ben Vonderheide. Are you familiar with Ben?
I'm not.
You have got to find Ben Vonderheide. I can't find him. I haven't heard from him in years. I don't know what's happened to him. I did an interview with him probably a year after, or 6 months after the Parker movie went viral, and then I've not seen him. I don't know what happened to him. But this man was recording what I was doing 10 years ago, what so many other fathers are doing today in Bravo. He was doing it back in like 2002. He was holding up like big handy cams and going up to judges in there, in like right up to the point of private versus public space, and getting in their faces. He's got a video where he got an 18 or a fifth wheel, and he put some sign on there that said Judge so-and-so hates children, and drove it around the courtroom in 2002. Yeah, I've never heard of anything like that. And I found the man, and I watched and watched and watched. I was obsessed with what he was doing, and he inspired me. Probably one of the biggest inspirations is what I did. And I just want to give a big happy Father's Day to Ben Vonderheide. The last time I talked to him, he said, he informed me that at the time he was no longer, his son was completely out of his life, completely brainwashed, completely alienated. And it really, really hurts.
Yeah, man. You know, and I think the lack of resources is probably a lot to do with why that video took off with Parker, and still now, because those resources haven't really gotten any better. I mean, we've got the show out by, I mean, I understand that, but still the one we are lacking for so many of these resources for men. And then they go and they see that video, and there's just so many triggers in those videos that are on those channels, you know. And I think one of the important things that I could talk with you about today, I've had several of the guys on here that are years out of the system, but they are still here and they are still speaking up. That's very important, you know.
Yes, it is. And you brought up something on the post you made the other day about Johnny Depp, and I won't go into it today. I do think is a very, very good idea to bring aware of, okay, hey Johnny, I mean, come on, man. You know, we rallied. You did great, but can you give us a word? I get that. At the same time, does he owe us that? I don't know, but
I think so. Because he really needed the public. I don't want to act entitled.
Okay. That's it. That's what I meant. Whenever when my response online, that's what I just don't want to ever come across as entitled.
No, don't want to say that it's entitlement. At the same time, you know, it worked for you. The power that one little tweet would have. So Caleb, the thing a lot of people don't get to see with Dad Talk is the amount of musicians, actors, and stuff like that I've talked to, politicians even, and I'll have the private conversations with them. But when it comes to speak up, like, man, one of the hardest things that we have is raising funds, or, you know, all these different things. It's like, dude, you could help so much. They're scared.
They are scared. I'm sure you've probably lost track of just how many people come up to you and say, hey, Eric, I've got this problem, this problem, this problem. I want to remain completely anonymous because I'm scared to death, but will you cover this and help me? And you want to, because you feel like you should, but at the same time, you're like, man, come on. I know it's tough to speak up, but God, I'm not going to cut. God bless it. Grow a set of balls. It's going to hurt. Being a man sucks. It's just hard. Man up. And I've had to learn that. Anytime I've ever complained in past years, that was pretty much the general sentiment. Okay.
There's only been two cases.
Man up.
And I can give you both of those. The number one would be the cases that have came to me that they're going through the false allegations or some of that. And just as you're talking to them, the hair on the back of your neck is stand up and you're like, I don't think these are false allegations. Like it sounds like the person I'm talking to could be the person that they're saying they are. And that has happened very, very rarely. Most of the guys reaching out, you can tell. But I have had those, those are the cases that I'm like, I'm not getting anywhere near that. The only other time that I've had one where I'm like, I'm not going to get behind that is stuff like Jeff Younger. I've told him that several times. It's like, it's not that I don't want to rally for you. I'm afraid what's going to happen to my channel or whatever that I've built if I do speak up, because we know what happens with the cancel culture. And I think that happens for a lot of these guys, their careers and everything gets on the line. But look, dude, not speaking up still made you go through it. And it's going to continue to make you go through it even more until somebody makes a stand and says, hey, let's correct this. I do think there's starting to become a little crack in the system. More people are speaking back. You got people like Andrew Tate now that I know is making a big name. And just, a disclaimer, I haven't watched really anything with him. I just hear about him a lot. And I think you're a pretty big fan of him.
I respect the man. I don't simp for him or anybody else, but I do respect. I've never even heard. The funny thing about cancel culture is because of cancel culture is the only reason I ever heard of Andrew Tate. Right. Apparently he was been big for several years. I've never heard of him, never heard his name, never saw one word until he got canceled and made the news. Andrew Tate got canceled. Andrew Tate I mean, it was everywhere last summer. I was like, who the hell is Andrew Tate? So I looked him up. I was like, cool. I don't agree with everything the man says, but I like that guy. Man, he's got testosterone. He is a good shot in the arm for young men. And so, yeah, he's influenced me, and he's 10 years younger than me.
You mean, dude, we're not going to agree with everybody. That's just something.
Exactly.
We should celebrate the fact that we don't agree with everybody, because that's how we learn from each other. They might learn something from me. I might learn something from them. And that's what makes the world special. I think going back to the Johnny Depp thing, the one thing that really, it excited me and it also depressed me at the same time when it came to that case. For the first time ever on a worldwide scale, I've talked to the people in Australia and several other countries that said it was even bigger news over there than it was in our country. And that's hard to believe because it was everywhere here. But for the first time ever on this worldwide scale, we saw a woman front and center, false allegations being talked about. This is what's going on. It was like, wow, we've been trying this for so long.
Yeah, I've got a video on my channel from about 2017, right around the time I got custody of Blaine. It was either right before or right after, when those allegations of Johnny Depp first aired, and Johnny's name was Mud, and anyone who was defending him was Mud. And my true fashion, I don't give a crap. I got out there and I supported Johnny, and I lost a lot of subscribers. Like, how dare you? Well, by golly, fast forward to 2022, people are Googling Johnny Depp and they find my old video like, hey, cool. He was supporting Johnny. I said, yeah. And everybody most people hated on me because that was the epic time of Me Too.
It's the culture, man. Unless you've had experience in the family courts, unless you've went up against that silver bullet, till you find yourself there, you probably aren't reading up on this stuff, and so
that's unfortunately that is true. And I don't even think that's necessarily a bad thing because everybody's busy. I'm busy. You're busy. No. The whole world's busy. And I don't have time to get to everything, but man, when I've got some free time and I find someone that's got some oomph and ready to help themselves, and in addition to people like me or you or whoever, or just anybody, someone who's willing to just at least show your face, at least just show your name and speak out and say, my name is so-and-so. This is what happened to me in the family court. I object to it and it's wrong. And it has got to stop.
That's right, man.
It's not that hard, but people need to do it. That's why, again, I absolutely love what you've done. I've watched you for, I don't know, how long you been around? Like 2 or 3 years? As far as the show?
It'd be going on 4 this year.
Okay. I knew it a little bit, but it's exciting to me watching what you do because you're growing, man. I mean, you're getting into some real politicians' faces and making them squirm. I mean, you yourself have interviewed old Ken Paxton, who's about to go to prison. So,
oh man, I know you are just loving that.
Well, I'm not just loving. I'm aware of the politics of it. The people actually that followed through with it. I'm fully aware that they were the opportunists. That they're not genuine about it. But what I'd have to say about Ken, I tried to warn you, man. You're letting this all slide. You're trying to mess with the Trump stuff and all this. You're messing with everything else, and you're letting these morons in where I was and within the local AG offices run amok. And so 6 months after I got custody of Blaine, I had custody. This is after my bank account got seized, and it took 5 years to get it back, and it's still not right. So I don't feel sorry for him. I mean, he did it to himself. That's just tough titty.
Man, dude, there's Texas politics. They're messed up. I mean, they're messed up around the whole country, but there's something special about Texas.
Bigger, nastier, and
everything's bigger. That's what they say,
including the problems, including the family court problems.
There you go, brother. Well, man, tell us what are you going to end up doing for Father's Day? You got any plans?
Accidentally, yes, I am going to go pick up Parker on Father's Day. I didn't plan it that way. My grandmother died, and it's not a sad time because she was 98, just almost 99, and I'm happy that she was ready to go. She lived a wonderful life. It just so happens the day after Father's Day on Monday is where in Vernon, Texas, I'm going to go pick up Parker and we're going to go to the graveside. So it's an impromptu deal. I wasn't exactly planning it. I kind of had some other things to do, but you hang out with my son. Hell, I hadn't seen Parker in several months or 6 months. I'm not sure when. And it'd just be nice to hang out with him.
I got you, man.
I'm not going to take up much more time. I know you got other people to do, but I've only recently on my own channel started talking about this. My own daughter, London, hasn't spoken to me in 3 years, and it hurts. I've not talked about it publicly, but I'm happy. I'm generally getting in shape. I'm building up my confidence. I'm building up my bank account. There's some things that I do despite the pain, but there is this gigantic void. There's an emptiness where I don't have her. And she's unfortunately succumbed to the alienation. I can't go into details. It's not like one major thing happened and we just got in a big fight because she was only about 14 and a half when it happened. So as far as what I'd like to say to my daughter, London, I love you, sweet girl. I'm always going to be here. Just like I was there when I cut your umbilical cord and your brother's umbilical cords. I've still got the t-shirt, and I would love to pass it down to one of the brothers or you. One of these days, if or when you need me, I'll be here. And until that time, all I'm going to do is get my body in shape. I'm 3 years sober in August. And sweet girl, I'm really trying. I've messed up. I know I messed up, but I will make it right to the best of my ability. When you need me, just call. I will be here.
Awesome, brother. Well, man, I hope you have a happy Father's Day. Make sure to tell the boys I said hello.
I sure will.
Be safe on your way down there.
I sure will, man. I sure will. Just keep doing what you're doing. And again, big shout out to Ben Vonderheide. The man, he pioneered what all of us are doing. He pioneered what all of us are doing. He was over the top and he was perfect. He was perfect in what he did it. And while we're lifting other people's up, let's give the OGs some lifting up. Okay.
Absolutely, dude. I'm going to have to check that one out. I appreciate it, Caleb.
All right. Take care. He goes by Daddy Justice.